name is Thomas Wesselink. I'm an account executive at Quintiq, specialized in manufacturing puzzles and specifically at protein processing companies. So the consumption of poultry products is ever increasing and will become the most dominant protein-based product that is consumed in the world within 5 years, for sure. So the challenge is valorization, so increasing margin, because poultry is a very expensive raw material and very perishable as well. So you need to process it as soon as possible. So you need to match your supply as good as possible to the demand that you have towards the highest potential margin. And this is challenging because you have a given supply coming in. It's typically contracted with farmers. So you have supplies arriving and you need to assess at the moment, given the quality of the poultry that you receive, what order would be best to fulfill with this supply. And that's the biggest challenge. So to elaborate a little more on how perishable it is as a ground material, you have 4 to 5 hours when the poultry has been slaughtered, when it's in the chiller, to reallocate given the quality of the base product. So that means that they typically, if you expect a certain flock of a certain quality, then typically it's not exactly what you contracted or expected. So there will be some slight deviations. So they might be slightly heavier, they might be slightly lighter, and you have typically a bell curve. So you need to be able to realign your supply given your demand based on what has come in. And this is very challenging. You have a very small window of opportunity to do so. So right after slaughter, you only have 5 hours to come up with a perfect production plan. That means matching the actuals, so the actual weight and quality of the poultry that you received, to the outstanding orders that you have. But also to make the decision what to do with the remaining part that is typically pushed to the trade market. But the sooner you can do this through full visibility of what's there, given the shelf life of the various products that you still have on your shelves, you can maximize this by better aligning the exact rates, promising a few days earlier before the devaluation, because it's a perishable product and you get better margins from the trade market. So another challenge is that it's a very labor-intensive process. So not the slaughtering and the disassembly as we typically see in other protein products such as beef, because their disassembly truly is one of the big cost drivers. But the packaging, etc., and the steps, production steps after this. So having full visibility on all pending tasks you still have to perform, you can better utilize your production lines and also get the right people with the right skill sets to process these orders. So with that also reducing overtime. What we typically see in customers, that also there it has quite a dramatic financial impact. So one customer in protein processing and specifically poultry processing of ours is Mooipark. And I think especially providing them with the full visibility in their supply chain, they were able to reduce costs, direct costs, but also to increase the margin per slaughtered kilo of chicken. So even if your supply chain is quite perfect, you still have to deal with big disruptions, such as avian influenza, for example. So that means a lockdown around one of your production facilities where you cannot fulfill any orders. But having full visibility of your supply chain and the capacity at other sites in other countries and regions, by really planning your network and not just your site, you can still fulfill orders because you have the full visibility and you can assess the ability to do so by running scenarios against cost or order fulfillment. Whatever KPI is most important to you, you can still manage your production over the entire network, because there are typically benefits by planning, doing larger campaigns of products, etc., by utilizing your entire network. If that's region-based or country-based, that's irrelevant. It can be as big as possible, because Quintiq is a very scalable solution in that regard. So most poultry processors have worldwide operations. So economies of scale is of major importance. Poultry is becoming more and more popular, where it used to be that specific parts would stay in specific regions, such as the chick-filets in Europe, but now we see that due to the globalization, people do like to eat the same products everywhere. If you have the full visibility, you can also source from other areas in the world, being that for labor being cheaper there, regulations better aligning with your core business goals, or just dealing with the disruptions that you have at hand. So even if you can predict your demand really well, you know what supply is coming in, and you have a perfect production schedule, then still you might have to deal with disruptions. For example, being a big movie coming out that typically spikes a big jump in sales of, for example, chicken legs. Or in the World Cup, when all of a sudden one country moves to the finals, people staying at home. So this peak makes a consumption peak, or suddenly a very hot weekend where people will buy more products for their barbecue. So you also have to be able to deal with these increases in demand in a very fast way, not to miss the opportunity. And due to the SLAs that typically protein processors have with supermarkets, they're also expected to deliver still on time in full. So besides being a very expensive raw material, another big cost driver is labor. So it's very labor intensive typically, not so much for poultry processing due to automation, but the speed you can run the production line is crucial also towards the margin you can reach. So you need to align the production schedule with people with the right skill sets to process all the tasks at hand.